Hi, this is Estelle Erasmus, your host for Freelance Writing Direct. In this short, soundbite-filled podcast, I'll cover everything the freelance and creative writer and author needs to do to move forward with their writing, their creativity, and their career. Through conversations with guests, we'll cover tips, tricks, and actionable strategies. So join me every week and grow your business and build your craft with Freelance Writing Direct. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes and Spotify. Hi, everybody. It's Estelle Erasmus, and I'm so thrilled to announce that my book, Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published, is out and available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, and wherever books are sold. So I would love it if you'd pick up a copy, and I think you'll learn a lot. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hi, everybody. It's Estelle Erasmus for Freelance Writing Direct, and I am so happy to have as my guest today Holly Rizzuto Palker. And I want to tell you a little bit about Holly. She is what we call a balabusta. Holly is an award-winning writer and an editor at Literary Mama, a board member of the American Society of Journalists and Authors, ASJA, and a mom to 3 kids and a dog. As a freelance writer, her passion lies in parenting and interfaith family relationships, although she also writes about a broad array of other topics. Her essays and articles appear in Parents, the New York Daily News, the Independent, Newsday, Literary Mama, Queller, Huffington Post, and more. She speaks at events and conferences, and she's working on a book about her interfaith family. And this episode is titled Writing and Editing Parenting Stories with Holly Rizzuto Palker. So welcome, Holly. I'm so happy to have you on the program.
I'm so excited, Estelle. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it for so long. I met you, I think, wow, I'm going to go back, but it was maybe around 2017 or something. And we really connected at the ASJA Writers Conference. And you've been an inspiration to me all along in my career. And I remember when I really, really, really lost my mind during the lockdown, and I was enrolled in your NYU parenting writing class. And I just didn't show up because we went into lockdown and I was just like, what is going on? And then I came into class and I wrote this essay, which was my therapy to get me through those few weeks. And you helped me on it. And it got into the Daily News, and it was so cathartic for me. And it was about my daughter helping me during the pandemic. And I've just been doing a lot of writing about that. I did it before, but something in me, like some light bulb, just went off, and it hasn't stopped since. So thank you.
Well, I'm honored to hear that. And we share other things. You are also part of a multi-religion family, and you have written about that, and I wrote about it. And I think we did it at the same time. And so we shared that.
We were both interviewed for the Forward. That was in 2016.
Oh my gosh, I have to find that and add that to my press clippings. I completely forgot about that. Thank you.
Right, we were interviewed. It was when the conservative Jewish movement started to allow non-Jewish people to participate in services. And I don't remember what you spoke about, but I spoke about how I still felt more comfortable in the Reform movement, not being Jewish myself. So
I really don't remember what I spoke about, but I know that they interviewed me. So thank you for reminding me. And both my daughter and your son had a bat mitzvah last year. So we've both been through the rigors of doing that. And we kind of have the opposite. My husband married into, I'm Jewish, and we're raising our daughter Jewish, and you married someone who is Jewish, and you raising your children Jewish, and you converted, I believe. Did you convert?
I actually didn't convert. That is, I'm Italian Catholic. And so that's always been my big question. That's actually what I talk a lot about in the book I'm writing. It's been something I've questioned for such a long time. Like, why did I choose not to convert? I feel left out sometimes, but yet I'm happy. So yeah, it's interesting. I raise pizza bagels. That's what I refer to them as, but it's lovely. It's a great situation to be in. So I'm happy that I'm able to write about it and talk about it.
My husband didn't convert either, but he was the one who got me to go to Israel because he loves it so much, and he's been hugely supportive. So it's just wonderful to have those perspectives. And I also remember when you came in and you wrote that essay, and it was really important to you because it was also tied around 9/11 and your experience during 9/11. And it was like therapy. And I will include a link to that piece in the show notes. And I believe it also won an award. Did it not win an award?
Oh, you're right. It did win an award. See, now you're reminding me. It won a Writer's Digest award.
That's right.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, I was downtown on 9/11. I was not in the buildings, but I was very, very close. And it had a very lasting effect on me. And I got PTSD from it for a long time. I didn't understand what it was. But when we went into lockdown, my body reacted the same way I reacted on 9/11, which for 20 some odd years, I don't want to remember how many years ago that was because it makes me feel old. I was very upset with myself that I couldn't be a hero. And instead, I hid behind a dumpster and someone else had to be my hero. And when the lockdown happened, all of those, like speaking about it to you right now, I get the goosebumps. Those same feelings came back, and I questioned, how can I be a good parent? Like all of this stuff. So it was very interesting for me. And 3 years later, with that distance, I think it's an interesting topic to explore, PTSD.
No, that's wonderful. And I'm very involved with Writer's Digest. At the time, I was not a judge for the personal essay contest. I've been a judge the last 2 years, and this year I was the final judge for the contest. But congratulations, you've won other awards as well, and we'll talk about that. But this segues into writing about parenting. So what I like that you did with that essay, and I so enjoyed working with you on it, is that you tied in your parenting experience of what you wanted to be for your child with other life experiences. And I think that framing works so well for parenting stories. Can you talk a little bit about like other kind of parenting framing ways that you've done different stories?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. And the one guiding light that I feel I always have is, if it keeps me up at night, then it keeps other parents up at night. And so if it's something that I'm thinking about, then chances are people will relate to it. And for me, relatability is always the number one, the key. And even with the interfaith issue that I write about, people can relate to that even if they're not in a Jewish Catholic situation. They can be multiracial, they can be so many other things. Even I've had Jewish families where maybe one partner is, let's say, conservative and the other is reformed, that feel that same, so it's always just that general relatability. And so I think that's important, and if you keep that in mind, you'll always get a parenting essay that people will connect with.
I love that. And so when you write your parenting pieces, and you write for so many places, and now you're editing, do you feel like you want to take your experiences in parenting and write about them for, so to speak, your own personal therapy? And
Yes. I was interviewing a rabbi who is a very good friend. His name is Joshua Stanton, and I was interviewing him for the book. And I said, "But Rabbi Josh, I don't understand. Do other people have these same questions about being in a a multi-religious family that I do? Because no one else ever talks about it." He's like, "Oh, I get questions about it every day. It's just that you're way more vocal than other." And I'm like, "Oh, he thinks I'm a big loudmouth." I kind of am. Uh, so, yeah, it's working through my own stuff and then helping other people with it.
That's great. And so let's talk a little bit about, you've been doing profiles for Literary Mama,
Yes, yes,
and you profiled some wonderful people I know, like Zibby Owens and other
yeah.
people. Can you talk a little bit about your experience of doing that?
So this is like a dream job for me, getting to talk to, emerging authors, authors big, authors small, my favorite authors. Like, it is a total dream. I had written a number of pieces along the way for them. I had interviewed Jessica Strouser, Brenda Janowitz, but I happened to see that there was an opening for an editor, and I was like, I want this. So, yeah, it's been great. I have, in the next issue coming up, I got to interview my absolute favorite, Jennifer Weiner. Our dogs got to meet on Zoom, and Jessica Gross as well. I got to interview. So they're both coming out in the next issue. But then, like, in the last issue, Lisa Rowe is this amazing writer who does mom-com, which is a genre I love to write in and read in. And it was her first novel. So it's just so great to speak to different authors at different places in life.
That's Welcome
And
to the Neighborhood. I actually met
yes,
her
I'm
at a
sorry.
conference.
She's so nice, right?
Yes.
Welcome to the Neighborhood. And it was such a fun book. And so it's such a great opportunity for people who do profiles for us. It's a great way to pick another writer's brain. I learn from everyone that I speak to. I always try to make that a priority. Take something away from this that you can, an actionable tip. And it's a great way to build a relationship and to network if you yourself ultimately want to have a book come out. So it's a win-win situation. And we publish 6 times a year. And we love when we get pitches where a writer pitches us because maybe they've met, as you said, Lisa Rowe at a conference. So they've met a writer at a conference with a book coming out, or they've connected on social media with a dream author and they have a relationship, and that author has agreed to do an interview. So that's the best and quickest way for us to get something on the website. Now, sometimes we'll have authors pitch us because they have a book coming out or a publicist, and that's great too. It might take us a little bit longer because we'll have to connect you with an author. And, you have to read the book and do the interview. It's a process. It's hard for us to get something up quickly in, let's say, the next issue that way. If we get something that comes to us already done, or the writer is pitching us and the author has agreed, it's a quicker process.
So I have to ask, is this paid, the writing?
No, so we are a nonprofit. So Literary Mama has been around for 20 years, and we are celebrating our anniversary. We have an anthology coming out, and I have an essay in it called Hippo Tent. So I'm excited about that. But we, in 2019, became a nonprofit, and so it is not paid. And that is, something to be upfront about. But for me, the access to writers and the experience pays for itself. And if we are going to publish your piece, I will say Literary Mama has one of the most rigorous editing processes that I've ever been through. They will not publish anything unless it is perfect. And that is such a great learning experience as a writer.
Yeah.
We go through many rounds of edits. So yeah,
No, thank you for being so candid about that and
Yeah.
about the process and all that. And so let's segue once again. I mean, you've been doing that for a while, and recently you joined the board of ASJA, the American Society of Journalists and Authors, which I have been a member of since 1997.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've only been a member since 2016 or 17. Sorry, 17.
I've had many roles in the organization. From back in the day, they had a New York chapter that was very active, and I was like the promotions person for that. And then later I ran the conference. I think it was 2016. Maybe that's when we met.
That was a great conference. At the time I was like, wow, this is one of the best conferences. I mean, ASJA has always been amazing and helpful in my professional career. The conference you ran, I do feel like that was the pinnacle. It was
Thank you.
So great. I always got work, networked with other authors. I'm so excited to be on the board. And it is funny that all of these things seem to have dovetailed and happened at the same time. I didn't plan it that way, but as you know, I never want to miss an opportunity. So I'm just kind of going with it. And the 3 kids, and it's just a crazy fun time. But yeah, on the board is so interesting because I'm learning so much about the organization, and I'm interested in being involved on the ASJA, especially post COVID, because I don't know if you feel like the writing landscape has changed and conferences have become virtual a lot of the time. And we at ASJA are having a virtual conference. I know you're doing a panel, as am I. My panel is going to be about family writing and how it's emerging and changing in the new culture. But I think it's all interesting, and I want to have my finger on the pulse at ASJA and kind of be there to keep it all relevant and all modern and in the new landscape.
That's fabulous. That's so great.
Well, it's interesting because you had asked me if I had actionable tips, and this one thought came to me about titles, because I've sent an article that I titled My Interfaith, and they accepted it. But when it went up on the website, they retitled it. And the new title was An Interfaith Family Story, Feeling Left Out at My Daughter's Bat Mitzvah. And it's just like another aha moment for me where I said, I should be making the title to describe what the essay is about, especially for online. My interfaith, well, that's so general. So think about that anytime I write an essay or anything, because it helps me stay focused. Being a pantser or someone that can kind of get wayward and lost along the way, it keeps me focused on what I'm trying to say. And I think when you submit it to an editor, it gives them a really good idea of what your piece is going to be about, and they can really have a good idea going into it, what they're going to read. So I think it's a great idea to try to title your piece in a way that you think it should come up online. And sometimes I do that by Googling. Like I'll say, okay, if I'm in a situation and I want to read a piece about another family, interfaith, what would I Google? Interfaith family story. And then I'll come up with a title that way. And it's so helpful for me as a writer. And then now as an editor, Melissa's like, you're the title girl. Can you come up with a title? I'm like, okay. So that's like my talent. I'm good at titles now all of a sudden. So great, I'll take it.
That's great. I call myself a title queen too. I love doing that. I think it's from back in the day when I was in traditional magazines and, glossy magazines. You had to do cover lines to attract the attention on the distribution stand. And now I so agree with you. I write about that in my book, Writing That Gets Noticed. And one of the things is eliciting emotion with the title, which is in your revised title, that did elicit emotion because you're talking about feeling left out. And so that I think is wonderful. And like, kudos to you on being the title person now there. So
I hope I can live up to it.
Share some other editing tips, like what have you been learning as you've been editing, and that something could be helpful to our watchers and listeners.
Okay. There's always more. that's something that, as writers, we always think if we give more and give more and give more, it's better. But it's teaching me that less is more, really being concise and pointed about what it is you're trying to say, I think is good. I also think editing is a very collaborative process. And I always try, I have an acting background and I've done a lot of improv. And if you remember during the COVID, I was doing freestyle rap, which was improv.
I
Um,
remember that with your daughter.
which was like really fun. My kids were so embarrassed, and it was like my COVID thing, but it got me again through the day. But when you take improv classes, they always say to you, no, you can't say no. So whatever that person throws at you, you have to say yes and. So keeping that in mind, whenever someone critiques my work, whether it's in my writing group, and I will not send anything to an editor ever without having at the very least one set of eyes on it, but usually more. And so when I read to my writing group, I always say to myself, whatever they're going to say to you, you're going to take it. You're not going to try to explain why you made the choice you did. You're going to take the criticism or critique and you're going to say yes. And here's what I can try to make it, or this is what I can try to do. What do you think about this? And as an editor, that works for me as well, because I'm not always right at all. And for instance, we were trying to come up with a title, Tess Clarkson and and I made a title and Tess was like, no, that sounds negative. And I said, oh my goodness, I didn't see it that way. You're absolutely right. What about this? And she said, oh, you're right. What about this? And we came up with like a really great kick-ass title. And I hope I'm allowed to say that, by collaborating rather than, you know what I mean? So I think for both the editor and the writer, yes and is a good motto.
I love that. I actually years ago took improv lessons at Chicago City Limits in the city. And so I loved that whole experience of, the team. And when you said yes and, I thought, oh, that is so great that she's bringing that up, because it's such a good philosophy and it keeps you open and it keeps you upbeat in a way. So
working with you, I find that to be prevalent in the way you respond to me. Even when I was pitching you about being on the podcast, you're very good at yes and we came up with a great thing to talk about. So
thank you. Yes, and you were very happy with the suggestion. I thought it was a perfect match. Thank you. So I know you're working on a book, and so I want to ask you a couple of things. I want you to say a little bit about your book in case there are, interested publishers out there.
Okay.
And there will be, but, say a little bit about it. And then we'll talk about where people can find you.
Okay, great. The book that I'm working on is called Raising Pizza Bagels, One Family's Interfaith Recipe. It is a first-person self-help book about baptisms, bar mitzvahs, and all the mishigats. So it chronicles my Italian Catholic upbringing and the pact that I made with my husband to raise our children in his Jewish faith, although I did not convert myself. Along the journey, I have faced emotional parenting struggles, many of which I've written about in essays, and I never imagined these things when I said, okay, I'll raise my child in your faith. So through interviews with clergy, psychologists, child development experts, other mixed faith families, I am gleaning advice and stories that have guided me in constructing a framework that works for my family most of the time, not all of the time. So it's kind of fun. I'm having a good time.
That's great. So it's a combination of memoir aspects with real actionable help for people. And advice. That sounds fascinating. And I would imagine it's informed by your wonderful sense of humor, which you put into a lot of what you do.
I think it's hard for me to not have that in my work. So
Well, it's the acting and it's the performing and it's the improv and it's all that, stuff, the stuff that actually helped you get through the hard days, early days of the pandemic, from what
Yes.
I remember. I'm really so thrilled for you for everything that you're doing. What's next for you?
Well, let's see. We have middle school graduation coming up. So, and we're looking at colleges. So
Wow.
I feel like I just need to get through to the summer and then reassess. Hopefully a book. But right now we're, working on all of these things and I'm having such a fabulous time. So we'll see. Hopefully
Yeah,
something great.
your energy is really high, the highest I've ever seen you have. And you
Thank
seem
you.
so, content and yet moving forward, which is,
I'm happy. I'm happy.
yes,
Thank you. Yes.
so good to see. And so where can people find you online, on social media? And we'll put everything in the show notes.
Sure. I have a website, hollyrizzutopalker.com, but I'm on Facebook. I am on Twitter and Instagram. And inspired by you, I do have a TikTok, but I haven't really gotten there yet. So that's what's next for me. Getting a TikTok account up and running.
I love it. What's your TikTok handle? I'm Estelle S. Erasmus there,
Okay,
but
so
what's your...
I try to keep all my handles the same. So it's at Holly Rizzuto Pal, Pal.
Okay, that's good to know.
For
Yes,
everything.
I'm the same, Estelle S. Erasmus everywhere.
Okay.
This is great, Holly. It's been so wonderful talking to you, catching up with you here. I mean, we've known each other for years, hearing everything that you're doing. I'm so thrilled for you and excited to hear what's next. And I know there's always more coming because you're that kind of inspiring person. And thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you so much, Estelle. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And there's so much more for Freelance Writing Direct. And feel free to email me with any of your questions and comments at freelancewritingdirect@gmail.com. Have a great day. Follow me at estelleserasmus.com on my website and on social media, which is Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Estelle S. Erasmus. And we're now on YouTube for Freelance Writing Direct. Follow along, and soon everyone will be reading what you're writing.